Okay, everyone, welcome back to lecture 2. Thank you for submitting the homework. I'm going to call out some names, and if you haven't submitted, uh, we have the policy we can give one-time extension. So let me get straight to that homework, right? Who here have not submitted the homework? Can you raise your hand? So everyone have submitted the homework, right? Okay. Let me just double check real quick. Homework 1. So I think who's Khánh Hưng Võ? Not here, right? Khánh Hưng Võ, no. Việt Danh. Nguyễn Việt Danh. No. Duy Đàm. Okay, the only 3 people who did not submit their homework are not here. So I think, let's say how many people we have today, yeah? Really? Only 7 people now? Are you sure? Minus 2 TAs and myself, we have 14 people in the class. Who here has not joined this group? Why not? Are you able to get the internet? Okay. Can one of you help? Because the Wi-Fi changed. Okay, guys. So let's get started. This week, we're going to talk about the first part of your app, usually. Creating user, logging people in. What's the word for that? Authentication. What's the difference between authentication and authorization?
Authentication is like who has got the access to the system, who can log in, and authorization, what roles he can perform.
Okay. Authentication is like, who are you? Authorization is, what can you do, right? How?
Authorization is like permission, right?
Yeah. With permission, if you're an admin, it's different. Okay, so homework. Each person has to submit his own homework. You can use resources, you can help each other. I'm glad we use a new submission system, everyone uses it, so it's good. This is the first time actually. In the past, people forget to rename the README file, and there's a lot of headache. And then forget to mention us on GitHub, and some people submit and we don't know. Last week we discussed a little bit about MVC. Keep things simple, guys. When you work on your homework, don't go and search for all these gems under the sun to help you. Just do it in a simple way that can, do it yourself. You learn a lot more. This is your chance to build stupid apps. When you go out there and build the real apps, you need all these mistakes you're learning and building. And like any Rails app, actually, you have to do a lot of model validations and flash messages. If you don't know that, please ask or read and talk to us. We'll cover some of that today. And I think by now everyone understands a little bit about database migrations. Oh, nodding your head. Yeah, thank you very much. Great. We have a lot of relationships between model, but for block, you have block has many comments. Or for homework, you have, what relationship do you have?
Order.
Okay. So some of you have more complicated order where you can have multiple items, but the basic order is a food item, has one order. There's many orders. In each order, an order belongs to a food item, right? Some of you have more complicated shopping cart where a cart contains many food items. So when you check out, right, you can check out many food items at the same time. So some of the good submissions is to show you guys. Leo, where are you? Here. Also, you made that picture for me, right? Is that you?
Yeah.
Like the picture here? That's kind of cool. So thanks for that. I thought it looks fun. But this is good app where there's a star rating and all the functions are there, right? And you see that with Rails they use turbo links. It's quite fast enough. Not the fastest under the sun, but when you click on all these links, you see that it's very responsive. It only reload the body. It doesn't load the head, and so it's like using Ajax to some extent. And Rails very smart. When you click on all this button, right, it automatically disable the button, so you can't double click. So that's Rails 5, automatic. In the past, you have to do it yourself. Okay, and then there's a reload bar. When you click on the bar, there's a percentage. It's quite nifty. I think this one is a little. The file's a little big, so GitHub doesn't render it. So I'll load it here. Hopefully, maybe we can see it. That's link. So we'll come back to that. Hui, where's sunset? Where's Hui? All right. So this is also good. Function-wise, I think this time you guys write really. You guys as good as I am in designing ugly web pages. We all make really generic, ugly ones, which is fine because I make ugly ones. So next time I try to give you more inspiration to make prettier web pages. So that's okay. I mean, I love the feature set here, right? So when you see that alert, so that's data confirm. When you do a link to, and then you can do data confirm to pop up a JavaScript alert. And this one's cool. You have a model, bootstrap model. When you click on an item, it pop up the model. Here's another one. As you can see, Rails, by now, Rails framework is really mature. It's easy for you to build all this app that feels just fast, and the code is very well organized. So it's another Nghị. Where's Nghị? All right. So Nghị. And before we get to Nghị, so this is Ming's submission. Is it? Can you see from here? Oh.
I didn't put it in.
Okay. I think
You can check it on the web.
that's okay. Yeah, I have it here. Okay, so we'll check it on the web. So this one, right?
Yeah.
I think okay. At first I thought like these are food, and I'm like scared. Okay, this interesting. I think like ideally you want these guys to be smaller. You should wrap in containers so that you don't have to scroll like this. It should resize in, right? Why is that happening? Maybe we can fix it right now. If you see what's going on with all this junk. Okay, so let's say you're using a card deck wrapper and 3 card. Yeah, I don't know why container. Does anyone know why the card deck and then they actually go outside? I think the images are just a little big. So if you put these images as maybe max width 100%, okay? So when you set that, then it will never be bigger than the container.
Oh, yes.
So then it resize. Obviously, then the only big boss is in the middle is not resized, but every these guys are skinny now. Good, because I'm shorter than them. So this makes me feel good. All right, then the last one, I think this is Ngi's app, right? Yeah. So try to add more functionalities. I think by now you're all comfortable with navbar. Some of you may have the footer. Most don't have it yet. Yeah, so it's good to see the footer. This one is tricky. Once again, you should have added the max width 100%. It's easy to fix, right? Any card image, I'm just adding this to any general image. So, right? And are you wrapping it under Okay, so you using it also in groups of, right? In groups of 3, but in this case you use a bootstrap, this grid column. So one way is to use a card deck, which auto, split them for you, and this is the second way. It's up to you. So this way is also very good. There's another way is the card columns, which then allow different images of different size. The card, some of this can be up, down, up, down. It's not like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. What happens when you have really long description here, and this card go down a little bit, right? So that's when it gets a little interesting in the layout. So for example, this is long, right? So what happens is if you use card columns, these two actually jump up a little bit, and then make sure it uses the space correctly. So this is nice. Right? These are sites that we thought is good. There's one more. Where's An? Yeah, right. What's your name? Vinyan. Yeah. So VN MA, because it's hard for me to search, but basically, yeah, there's another good one, and I think it's really good. Thank you everyone for paying attention to the details. I know many of you watched the video, and I know the videos can be quite silly sometimes, but give me feedback if you have ideas how to make it better. Yeah, right. So let's discuss homework 1 a little bit. Yeah.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So you are using the attribute called like max width, right?
Yeah.
How about min width?
Do you think you need min width?
But
So it depends. So good question, right? So let's say in this case, if I resize this down here, it basically now the card becomes really big because it's in the small screen, right? Responsive, but the image, this is the max size. So technically, if you do width 100% instead of max width, then it will expand. So technically, right now, if you want min width, you can also do it. It's here. You can actually click here to bring it outside. Actually, not there, but bring it outside. And this one right here. So let's say under this max width, and then you say your question is min width. Then in small cases like this, the image will expand. Yeah. So good question, because it does apply in this case if you want the image to be bigger, be stretched. Otherwise, usually it just let's go as max as whatever the container size. Okay. Yeah. All right. Homework. So close this guy. I'll close all the other sites. Now let's discuss the homework a little bit. Where is it? Discussion. Okay. What's the most difficult thing about the homework for you guys? Some may.
many relations.
There's a many-to-many relationship. What many-to-many relationship do you have?
Like you have like all the food items, right?
Yeah.
Food items will belong. I don't actually like how to know how to describe in English, but like you have a food order, right? You have a lot of food items,
Mm.
and a lot food item can have a lot of order.
Okay. So you use many-to-many in your case? Okay. Anyone else? Thanks for sharing that. We'll keep that in mind. Anyone else? Any other difficulty that you find really confusing about the homework? Form 4. Okay. Form 4 is confusing. Oh, so you use nested? Okay. Form 4, relationship. You say form 4 what? For the order. And in there, you want to include the ID of the food item. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So keep that in mind, right? Like, I won't be able to explain. I mean, when we do the demo, hopefully we run into that problem, but we'll get better at forms very soon. So in your case, you have to say an order. You have many discounts.
Order just say the discount ID.
Uh-huh. Right.
And order have the menu after.
Okay. So order belongs to discount.
Yes.
So why is it difficult?
Um, because when I say order with the so the error the discount can be exit.
Oh yeah. Very good. Okay. So I can explain that, but that would so let's say here, right? And I'm going to go to your order here. You have, where's your discount?
And check the order.
You want the order, oh, wait, order model? Orders controller. Okay, so this is where you do the code, right? So on validation, discount ID. But when you do this, I didn't see in your order belongs to discount.
I just remove it
Okay,
to our
so you add belongs to discount. So you can validate the discount ID or you can validate the discount method. Usually you want to validate the discount method, not the ID, because if there's a new discount record, right, it check, oh, I'm going to save myself, and then when I'm going to save the discount as well, and then you have the ID. Say, like find in usually if you want to validate the relationship, an easier way is just to validate by the name of that relationship. So a user has many messages, right? Let's say a message belongs to a user. So you can actually do, let's say, validate user instead of validate user ID. In some cases you want user ID, but usually if you are confused, just pick the user. So same thing, validate discount. Don't validate by discount ID.
and another button with the JavaScript block.
Okay.
Yeah, I have the table with the many items. I
Uh-huh.
want to, when I click on the one round table,
Uh.
show the detail. But the JavaScript of the block, after I block the page,
Uh-huh.
not the first time I visit it.
Okay.
I just some related to the table thing.
Yep, there were links, and it's quite simple. We will learn that Rails working with JavaScript here. When you go to this guide and you see how turbolinks work down here, basically, who here knows about document ready event? Raise your hand. In a lot of web pages, you wait for the document to finish loading and then you start running JavaScript. This is when the element you want to find is there. If you run otherwise, sometimes you're trying to find some diff, some element, but the document is not yet ready yet, you cannot find it. Now when you work with Rails 5, you want to do this. So you can wrap this inside a function. The only change is that don't call it on document ready, but call it on this. That's all. We will learn this more over time, don't worry about it, but right now just know that this is the event. If you work on Rails 4, it's called page load. So it's not TurboLinks load. TurboLinks now changed to this because TurboLinks has become a more general framework. They even provide you TurboLinks library as sort of SDK-like, right, framework for iOS or Android. and Android. So you can actually include TurboLinks, and it works with Rails app so that it reload part of your screen. It's quite nice, so that you can build hybrid app easily. That's why TurboLinks 5, which is for Rails 5, is becoming really popular. It's really cool, but it's a little early to show us right now. Okay, anything else interesting? Hello? What's your name? Zhang. You haven't submitted homework, right? Wait, did you ask for the 24 hours or? Okay, so we'll talk afterwards. Okay, so, and then I think without spending too much time here, always think about this, guys. We're learning together, we can discuss, you can ask again, but part of learning faster is sometimes you have to think about these difficult general questions. Okay, so these are some of the goals I want you to know. If you don't know any of these questions, like the answers, right, you can ask your friends, note down, why don't I know that, right? You should understand that now you see in the routes, how do you get the path, right? Menu path, contact us path. You should know how to use .where, .order, and then you can even chain them. .where, blah, .order, blah. You can just keep chaining them. Chaining just means put one after another, and then it just becomes smaller, right? The search, the filter. Flash messages, we'll use that today, so don't worry so much if you haven't used it. Libraries, again, think about, like, sometimes it's really nice to use them, but if you think you can implement it yourself, don't be afraid, or don't think that it's a waste of time, because your stupid solution is usually better, because if it works and you already test it, it will keep working. Sometimes you use some library and then that library depends on 20 other libraries, and then one of the 20 libraries break, and then your jam will break. So it depends on the situation, right? That's why you need tests. But for learning, do it yourself if you can. Okay? Definitely do not try to put crazy Ruby code in ERB, right? Try to think about how you prepare the data in controller, right? And then in controller, how you write less code in controller. You want to write more code in the model, so you can test in Rails console, right? Rails console, you go in there, you can type what you want, and we do more of that every day in the lecture, so you'll see why. What's that? In a model, so in Ruby, we learned there are two types of methods. One is an instance method, def blah, or another is class method, def self dot blah, right? Sometimes if it's, let's say, if you do something with the message, like you want to search, filter, count, or group them, you put that in the model as a class method for now. Later, when you're more experienced, you can do more things. But think about that. If you say, find the 5 most expensive items. You don't do that in the controller because it's hard to test. Instead, in my food item model, I just create def self dot most expensive. Take one argument, n, right? And then in there, it's very easy. You already have the class, so you don't even need to do food item dot where. You just say where, right? But then, so here where price is not nil, right? Price is not null. You still with me? Price is not null, and then dot order, right? Price descending. Price ds DESC. Then automatically you get, and then you want dot limit n. So now you automatically have something really beautiful. Give you 5 most expensive. If you go to the Rails console and type food item dot most underscore expensive open 5, enter, and you can test. You can see the SQL query there, right? You can see whether the SQL query looks good or not, and you learn SQL. Even if you're not sure, we learn SQL as well. So part of the Rails class, you have to learn everything.
So in conclusion, the model is like where you put the logical parameter, logical statement in there, right?
So in conclusion, controller as much as possible. Sometimes you're lazy, right? CSS you put in the view, that's okay. Because again, you're just prototyping. As it goes bigger, you put all the CSS under class name in CSS files. Same thing with JavaScript, you can put it in the view first, or just one line. Who cares? Right? Now controller is the same thing. When if you want to start doing things like, if you see a lot of where statement or order statement in there, it means something is, you're just putting too much logic. Or if your action in the controller, an action in the controller is a method, right? If that action is like more than 10 lines long, something is wrong. You can actually make it simpler. Now, some of you may work in a Rails company already, and the nightmare is when you go into an action and you see it's actually 20, 50 lines long. It's because we're not careful. Over time, it becomes too much. And it's not easy to think that way. As you become more experienced, you have to separate into many classes. Each class takes care of one thing, right? It's called delegating responsibilities. But let's keep thinking about that. So if you see your controller too big, ask our TAs or myself or friends, how can I make it smaller? Okay? All right, so no one did emailing, right? Did anyone do emailing? Not this time. Oh, a lot of people in the past class, they also, like, if you place an order, it send an email, send an SMS. And also, do you have you done this? Params require? Yeah? Okay, all nodding your head. That's good. Okay, so this tripped some people up. Who here has run Rake or Rails assets precompiled? All right. So don't do that, okay? If you do it, it will create the generated application.js file in public assets, and every time you run Rails server, it only uses that file until you run this again.
Yes.
So that means that your code is whatever you change to CSS. It's like, why is it not working? Right? And you deploy to Heroku, Heroku will always use those files. So what you want is to not do that, so that when on local, it always regenerate on the fly. On the fly means what? When you need it, it just generate and cache. It cache intelligently. On Heroku, Heroku has a way so that when you deploy, it compile. When you push, when your app becomes really big, compiling all the assets when you push becomes slow. So many people prefer pre-compiling and then push. Does it make sense? But now Rails is also pretty smart. When you push, nothing changes in the app assets folder, then it also doesn't recompile. It reuse everything. All the temp folder, all the files there are reused. All right? Okay. So that's a recap of homework 1. Now, what's really important is the assignment again. Hopefully, some of you spend 5 hours, 10 hours, 15 hours, 20 hours. We all come from different backgrounds. Doesn't matter how much time you spend, right? Don't feel too bad. Really, like it's about learning. So control your time and always ask when you're stuck. If you spend more than half an hour getting stuck somewhere and you start falling asleep, the best thing to do is just to take some screenshots, send some questions to the questions channel, and then go and have fun. Forget about it. And then when you come back, see whoever reply, and then you work on it. Yeah? So don't just sit there and wait, like, man, that's why if you start early, you can do that. Hey guys, I got to this point, but I'm stuck. Like, just send some screenshot and make it really easy for someone to give you ideas. And that's what that's why we have 2 teaching assistants, so that we can help 20 people. So, okay. So, I want to talk about something else before going to the technical stuff today. It's called a group project. Okay, has anyone read the group tab? It's a lot of text, so spend time. I realized that if we spend a lot of time doing this early on, I don't have time to teach Ruby or Rails, and then you have to learn at home. So I'm cutting shorter time, right? We spend discussing this. But I want you to all know and start thinking about group projects. We only have homework for the first 3 weeks. We haven't written homework 4 yet. It means by homework 3, you haven't died, means you probably can stay in the class. Right? But we probably want to have homework 4 because, you know, it's 8 weeks and you start working on your project from week 4 onwards, okay? So maybe homework 4 can be optional. Now, what happens is between now and week 4, we find your teammates. How many people per teams? 3. Yeah. 2 is not really a team, it's a pair. You know? So technically, if you find your best friend and you work together, 2 people can make a really good team. Right? So we only do that if we cannot put everyone in 3s. That makes sense, right? 3 means you now have to have teamwork. A talking to B and C, and when A and B agree on when to meet, then you also have to ask C. And 3 is a good size, right? 4 is when things get interesting, and you start not working at all because you cannot find the time to meet, and then you see someone put less time, and it's really hard. And we have had groups of 4 that have successful results, but I do know that it's harder. When you're in a group of 4, you also have to know that you have to overcome. Right? There are benefits. If you plan better, 4 people can go very fast. If you don't plan well, then 4 people just spend time planning on how to plan. So go back to this. Group is one thing. Finding someone important is important. Finding someone compatible is important. Keep thinking. Let's make friends. Talk more on Facebook and Slack to get to know each other. The second part is brainstorming ideas. Right? And I have a spreadsheet here. At home, you can actually... This is the old one. I already updated it. I'm not sure why it hasn't reflected the changes. But basically, I created a new... Later, you guys can... This is the wrong one. Let me see if I can find... This is the last class. Let me find the... Great brainstorming for Coded School. Group project. Rails. Okay, I'll paste this. I think this is the one, right? Okay. Yeah, I'll paste this on Slack. Basically, over time, we'll find some classmates, and then we group some people together. You have to sell yourself, okay? You want to make sure that people want to be in your, project, or want you to be in their project. So any stupid ideas you can have, please put them here under rough ideas, and we can fine tune them, okay? So here's the link. Let me just paste that in here. And spend time to read, because choosing ideas is not simple. You don't want to choose something you spend 1 week working on, and next week you're like, I don't like it. And then your teammates will hate you, and also you may not stay with the class. So that's really sad too. So let's not do that. Basically, you just need to choose something that's good enough. It's not to build a company, right? But it has to be something you convince people why you want to do it. And you stick with it. And you present. So after that, some people continue to work on it. Most people do not continue with the projects after that because they don't have time. They go back to their day job, right? Or they apply to new jobs. But this is your chance to do something amazing and present in the past, right? Winning teams get $1,000, second prize, third prize get $500. Why not? So some people, also brag about, oh, winner of Coding School, put it on LinkedIn and resume. So that's kind of nice. So take some time to think about it. This is how you think about ideas. So read this, right? And start asking questions. So when you're in the toilet, in the first 2 weeks you start reading about Ruby, but if now you're sick of reading the Ruby guides, you can start reading about this and think about ideas, right? Okay?
When the ideas come from the toilet.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's so many good ideas when you do that. Like, it just so many good ideas come. There's a flow, right? If there's no flow, try flushing, and then there will be some flow. Okay.
Jeez.
Okay. I'm here. All right, let's kidding. All right, so that's recap. Let's take a quick break, and we're gonna get right on to coding. Ask questions. Stay awake. It's important. So we learn Ruby and Rails at the same time. So I want you to basically remember everything, so you don't have to watch the video. But if you don't remember anything, you can skip to the part in the video. Right? You don't have to Google so many places that to learn, because there are too many places to learn. You can do it at home. But with Coding School, I think it's enough that you just do the work and solve the problems that we all do it together here.